Today I'm talking to Shari Matluck with Compass, a top real estate agent in New York City. Shari grew up with a family of real estate agents, her mom an agent and her dad a managing broker. Shari knows the business all too well. Over the ups, downs, and all the dynamics of our business since her childhood and over the years, she has learned at a core level what being a great agent is all about. Her biggest strength is engaging in her marketing and with her client on a deep level. She says that simple and true engagement is what does and always will grow and expand every real estate agent's business. Today, we talk about how she does it. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today we have Shari Matluck with Compass in New York City, where our headquarters are and where we were founded. Shari, it's so great to have you today. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So first, just tell us a little bit about how you got into the business and where it all started.
Okay. So it's kind of in my blood. I was born into it in a way because my mom's been a real estate agent for over 30 years in South Florida. She, as of this summer, is also a Compass agent. But I grew up talking, and my father was the broker at her office.
Okay.
And I kind of grew up like very traditional dinner, 7 o'clock, Monday through Friday with the family, no phones at the dinner table, talk about your day. And because real estate has always been something, it's so interesting, even as a little girl, like it was a topic of conversation at our dinner table. So ethics, the nuances of the deals.
So the business really well.
Yeah.
From back then to now.
It's always been in my system. And so when I moved to New York about 8 years ago, I was just ready to kind of move back into the real estate world. I was doing technology sales at the time. So, I kind of fell back into it, and the rest is,
So you're in technology sales, and then how long have you been an agent have you been an agent and then in technology sales and an agent, or have you just been in?
Yeah. Well, when I graduated from college, I worked for a developer, and I was licensed in Florida and worked for a developer for about a year. And then I realized I really wanted like structure and sales training, et cetera. So I went door to door selling 2-1 and
wow, smart.
Yeah.
And not fun, or was it fun?
It was so fun. I mean, that's where I really got the hustle from because, it was a classic sales job out of college where we had sales territories and sales quotas and sales managers, and people really, they really taught us sales technique.
Yeah.
And when I moved to New York at that point, I realized I was ready, instead of selling across the desk, because I was selling, this is the value proposition and this is what will make sense for you. Now with real estate, I'm having an opportunity to sell side by side. What are your goals? Let me explain and educate and help you achieve them. But it's ultimately your decision. Unless,
That's awesome. So sales job in technology out of college, and then you got back you're like officially a real estate agent for how long?
In New York, 7 years.
7 years. So you've been with Compass for 3?
No, this April 21st is going to be 2 years.
Okay, great. So you've been kind of like Compass has been in New York for what, 4 or 5?
5.
Well, that's where we started. So 5. 6 years. So you came in 2 years in. So Compass was pretty big by then, but still kind of newish.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as big then as it is now. When I came, we didn't have as many tools as collections had just come out when I started at Compass.
Collections might be my favorite.
Oh, it's my absolute favorite tool.
Yeah.
But when I came, I'd met with Compass previously. I met with Compass 3 years ago, and it wasn't the right time for me to join.
Yeah.
then I was at a Tom Ferry event and was feeling like just uncertain about my career path. Just
Wow.
not feeling like I fit in where I was. I wasn't feeling stimulated. I wasn't feeling supported. And I was greeted actually at that event. I was greeted by Steve Halpern, who is a good friend of mine, First Compass agent.
Oh, awesome.
And I was
Yeah.
sitting in a bench with him and a bunch of other Compass agents. And I was like, why am I ignoring this? Every single agent that I've had a positive experience working with and that I actually like is at this company. So
Wow. So now here you are at Compass. So being a real estate agent in such a competitive industry and in New York City where it's probably the competitivest industry it is times 10, how do you find your competitive edge and what is your competitive edge?
I think my relationships are definitely what, you know, keeps me keeps me consistent.
Yeah.
And my ability to really think outside the box and go above and beyond for my clients in every way, shape, or form is what sets me apart from some of the other agents that I've either come up against in a listing presentation or when they're meeting with multiple buyers agents and they're figuring out who to work with. I do have a unique way of building a connection and relating to when it comes to their buying and selling process.
And I think you've talked about, like we talked before, you've talked about, when you work with your clients, you have kind of an ability to find a unique way. I think a lot of agents kind of streamline it and they do the same thing for everyone and everything's scripted. And I would say maybe you have a way of really listening and hearing things differently and making them feel connected. And also you may have a way of pinpointing what's important to this client versus this client and really individualizing each client. Would that kind of phrase kind of sum it up?
Absolutely. Like I remember one time there's this group of friends that all have a summer share house together. And I sold one of them their apartment 3.5 years ago. And at this point I've sold half of this share house there in New York City.
Yeah.
And sitting at dinner, I did like a client appreciation event for them. And we're sitting at dinner and they were one of the couples that I was working with at the time was, they were thanking me and being really polite, really sweet. And they were saying how they had met with another agent. I didn't know this. It was news to me. They're like, well, we had met with another agent before we spoke with you. And we kept on telling him what we wanted, but then he would send us things that really didn't make any sense for us. And then we had this, instead of having a conversation with you, you actually wanted to spend face-to-face time with us and really go through it together. And, we knew that there was no doubt that you would be a better advocate for us to get us where we needed to go.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people get in this business thinking, oh, it's easy. You put a sign in a yard, you call people, you do a deal, you kind of get between you kind of get in the middle of a transaction and get paid. And it's recognizing that when you come to the table, you're representing somebody in the biggest transaction of their life, so meaningful, and really being an engaged part of that process. What are some fun examples that you might be able to think of ways things you've done and ways you've, or maybe a better, one of two. What are some examples of how you've engaged with clients and stories you can share? Or is there a way that you think about your business so that because I think a lot of people maybe get in this business for a long time and they forget their clients are people, and that you really connect and have some of it's just in your wiring?
Wow. So
don't you love all my questions? I'm just throwing you off.
I love your questions. I mean, I've also had one of the most challenging and fulfilling weeks this week. So
awesome. Tell us about it.
Like yesterday, for example.
It'll be fine. Yeah.
Yesterday, I had a closing with this couple, Josh and Ryan, and I met with them last Labor Day, like the week after last Labor Day. So it's been 1.5 years. And they were the first clients that I decided to start having buyer appointments with. Like traditionally I would get a call and just meet them. So this was the first time I had somebody come into my office. When, I decided to start really fine tuning my process.
I love it.
And the relationship that we built over the past 1.5 years, some of the things that we've been through, I mean, they closed yesterday. They've sent me 3 referrals that I've closed in the past 1.5 years before I've even sold them their own home. Yeah. And like, not just, it wasn't just like we were catching up about properties they've seen. We built such a strong relationship along the way. And I was constantly like touching them. I send I acknowledge the referrals the second I get them, not
Exactly.
just when they close. And so, the closing table was great. Like the vendors that I used, my attorney, the banker, like everybody, it was such a great closing. And, even we always have some champagne after, and then I make these personal little saging, gifts for.
Oh, that's right. I love that.
And those sellers were so excited. Like it was a great meeting of the minds.
So let's
The
tell. So
buyers are happy.
So that gives me a couple of things to ask you about. Two things. So you talked about home staging, but don't go there yet because I want to ask you first about something else. I just don't want to forget that. So you talked about when you're working with your clients, so many of us just get a call, they want to go see houses, and we just start showing them houses, and we don't really ever sit down and make it formal. When did you decide to do that? Why and how, and what difference has it made?
Oof. Okay. I decided to do that the beginning of Labor Day because when I moved over to Compass and started implementing our technology into my day-to-day business, I realized that, I had more clients I had more business, and I needed to figure out a better way to manage it and how to manage my time, how to manage just the process in general so that I can help people achieve their goals.
Mm-hmm. Now
is a big part of that.
Yeah, but on managing time, I think that's interesting because a lot of people get the call, and for the sake of time, they just go meet them at the house and get them going and just try to get them in a deal.
No, that doesn't work that way.
Exactly. So tell us about it. Yeah.
Well, the better I understand someone, the better job I can do connecting them with the right property and helping them, avoid going to places that they don't want to go. Also using collections, like if I'm meeting somebody in person and being able to look at connect with them in person, build a search with them in person, look at listings in person, I'm reading their facial expressions as they're looking at listings. Yeah. So I'm understanding and I can ask them questions right then and there about why they do or don't like one of the properties that comes up in the search.
Well, and I think something that's important is a lot of times people will say one thing, but they're not telling you what's really going on. And when you can read their body language, it gives you the triggers without making them feel without being invasive to help guide them to open up and be comfortable, to put you in a situation where you can really help.
But it's also like, if we were to have these conversations over email, then I'm a salesperson. What did you think of this? Like it's a back and forth dialogue. But when you're next to somebody discussing it, it's a conversation.
It's a conversation, and you become.
And then being able to. I'll share this analogy. I always explain, to buyers, right? This is a buyer example.
Yeah.
When they call, when I have a referral, I set the expectation. We're going to get together. I'm going to share some technology with you. We'll build a search and we'll get to know each other.
Yeah.
And when we're in person, I explain that our app is like if Pinterest and Tinder had a real estate baby. This would
I have to write that down. I knew that.
And it really helps register with clients.
Wait, Pinterest and Tinder?
Yeah, because you get the swiping from the Tinder, like and dislike, and then the ability to have notifications underneath each listing. And
if Pinterest and Tinder had a baby.
Had a real estate baby.
Yes. Collections. Pinterest. Have you ever done like a social media ad on that or anything? Because you should. Like Pinterest and Tinder's real estate baby.
I haven't yet, but I've done, I've gone and I've shared this with some other agents and I love it. Works really well because I'm at that point training my clients kind of how to communicate with me on the home buying process. So it allows our time on the phone or over email or over text to be more meaningful about what's going on in the market, how are their kids, what did they really, what are they excited about, what's shifting in their search versus what did you like or dislike, or what time can we schedule? And they're just as satisfied because, most of the time there's more than one person involved in the purchase process. So the amount of calls, texts, and emails can be a little bit overwhelming. So that is a big part of time management. I'm not expecting my clients to email me about or send me text messages about listings they want to see. I know I'm going to get those push notifications on the app.
On the app. I love what you just said, call, text, email. Because if you met John Zimmerman, he's now a Compass agent in Fort Worth, Texas. No, he's a really masculine, good old boy, wild, and he's got this little needle pointed pillow on his sofa in his office that says call, text, email. Anyway, call, text, email, but you're taking your call, text, email and putting it into the Compass platform, which is awesome.
I'm also like reiterating that I'm not going, they drive the bus. Like we can be aggressive or unaggressive as they'd like to be. But when I can understand my clients better when they're using the tool, because I can see how often they're adding listings into the collection and what their comments are. And that means that when I'm calling them, it's not to
push or it's not a sales call.
Yeah, that, and it changes it. And then also when they use it as process of elimination, it helps them get to...
And helps you see what they don't like, because that's as important sometimes as what they do like. But I love what you just said, they drive the bus. So it reminds me a little bit, have you read the book Energy Bus?
Yeah.
So Erin Kruger, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, she recommended it, great book. But it's talking about like when you're working on a team together, and when you're working with a client, that's a little bit of a team. But who's driving? The team leader's driving that bus. You're managing the process, but it's their bus, it's their purchase, and giving them that sense of autonomy and control in the process, so that you're coming into the process where you're really a part of it, as opposed to coming in and trying. Sometimes people feel like we just want to check in and help, and if we're not careful, sometimes it feels we don't want them to feel like we're pushing them to do a transaction, because that's not what this is about, especially not for an agent like you, which is awesome.
I think when you have an opportunity to have a buyer appointment up front and set and manage expectations, instead of being on the defense throughout the process, like clients randomly sending you homes and being like, can you take a look at this? What do you think the comps would be? Like, then you're drawing up comps for every single listing that they think has a little potential.
And it's hard to gauge what they like, because it's all in different emails as opposed to one place on one platform. That's awesome. So, so you've got the buyer side. Relationships is really your key, and I think a lot of us sometimes forget the importance of being engaged with clients and not just looking at them as transactions. On the other end of that, I know you've got, you're really great with listings, and I think you've got a great listing presentation. What is your strength, and what is your listing? Well, before I ask you that, everybody forgive me. Let's learn what your buyer presentation looks like, or your buyer appointment looks like, and then let's learn what your listing presentation looks like. So when you set up a buyer appointment, how does that conversation go, and how does the meeting go?
Okay, so when I set it up on the phone, like when they did
is that how you set it up? Right.
I let them know.
This is your bus. Right.
We're going to get together. We're going to have, we're going to talk about, we're going to build a search, and I'm going to share some technology with them. But in order for us to make the most sense of our time together, I'm going to introduce them to either, to the banker if they're going to get a loan. And I'll make sure that they have all of their ducks in a row before we even have that real meeting. So I'm in a way like dangling a carrot. I mentioned technology, but I'm not giving them access to our search. And then when we're together, they're like, oh, this is great. And they get really excited about it. So when we are together, they've usually sent me their pre-approval and their financial statement before the meeting. So I have a sense of like the direction that we're going to go when we're in person. But I try to pick either a restaurant or a coffee shop that's not too loud. Yeah. And setting that we're comfortable in, where we don't, that we can have a real conversation. Yeah. And I also like to, it's very natural. Like I do either bring my iPad, or I did get the newest iPhone, and that really makes a big difference, because oftentimes we're sharing a screen. And that's another thing. Like, how often do you allow your partner to hold your cell phone in their hand? Right. Well, it's all the time. So intimate, right? To have somebody else's cell phone in your hand. Yeah. Yeah. So when we're going through it,
it's like more than their purse, because it is their purse.
People don't share their cell phone. It's like, oh wait, you don't know what pictures.
Like my husband's cell phone, but not. Yeah, I can see what you're saying now. Yeah,
exactly. So like right off the bat, we're all holding each other's cell phones, and it's like, and it's really, it feels very natural. And awesome. I also take that opportunity to, get more information from them, like their mailing address or their birthdays, because that's part of my unique marketing, like with the relationships, like birthday cards, or, sending flowers.
Just keeping it personal is what you're doing. Keeping it personal.
So,
because it is personal.
So that's what we'll do. We'll build the search together and go over collections. And then, they'll end up going out on their own the first time, and then I try to be with them on the second time once they've eliminated some things.
Perfect. So really the buyer appointment is more of just meeting them and showing them the technology and how to use it. Is that kind of how?
Yeah, and then like being able to really understand them in person and talk
understand and get to and get to know them. Now, what about your buyer brokerage agreement? Do you
My what?
You buy, so we call it buyer brokerage. Do you engage in a contract where they engage you as their agent, or because everybody's got a different take on that? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I ran into, it's funny you ask because I've never heard of that here until
Why that's
a girl from my boxing gym.
I was going to say I don't think you have that in New York, right?
No, we don't have it. No, but she thinks she signed something with this other agent like a year ago, and I'm like, I don't know. She thinks she might have, but
that's so funny. Yeah, that's so funny. We have those here, and a lot of people don't use them. Some people do use them. It just it depends. Everybody does it a little bit differently.
I think it's so personal. Like, if somebody doesn't want me to represent them, I don't want to represent them.
Exactly.
If I'm in your home and we're not vibing. Like, I don't really want to be in your home. You don't want me in your home. I don't want to.
Exactly. I think a lot of people feel that. I mean, there's a lot of different schools of thought about that. But I love that. So tell us about the listing presentation. How does that look?
So that's there's a few things there. I mean, I use technology in it as well, and I think being transparent with my seller and building a price together.
Building a price together. I like the way you put that.
Like instead of coming in with a price, like this is my recommendation, I'll do the same thing. Essentially, I'll show them, I'll build a collection of comps on the app, and I'll share it with them, and I'll go through and I'll talk to them about it. Do you think that this home should trade for more or less than yours? And they're gonna, and we'll get to a price together. We'll get to a range.
How well does that work? Do you ever have people say?
It works really well.
Do you ever have people say, no, this house should be less and it should be more?
Why? Because then we could open up the pictures, we could look at the finishes, we could look at the views or the footprint. I mean,
that's so smart. And so many people. I mean, I don't even do it one by one like that. I kind of build the spreadsheet and whatever. But it's brilliant.
If you're emailing back and forth about these things, or if you're leaving it to them and they're doing their own research and they're giving you feedback, you can't really. It's not very common for real estate agents to respond to feedback and be like, no, I disagree over email.
That
but when you're
very well.
discussing it in person, it's different. And on the marketing side, I'm really not, I don't hold back. I'm not scared to have fun. And, I can be really quirky or cheesy or punny. And I realize that works really well when marketing a home. So how many, e-blasts do agents get a day? So coming up with really quirky subject lines.
Love that.
The way I explain to my sellers is the nicer your home photographs, the more people will click on it. The more people click on it, the more people will walk through your front door. The more people walk through your front door, the more money in your pocket.
Exactly. Well, not only that, but you talked about doing quirky things because so many emails come. It makes me think about, are you familiar with Seth Godin? He's the marketing guy. He wrote the book, The Purple Cow. But he has this, you got to Google Seth Godin. He's great. So he talks about, he's a big marketing guy. He's got a blog that's one of the most read blogs ever, and he doesn't advertise it. He doesn't track it. He's just who he is. And he's really quirky. But he wrote a book called Purple Cow. And Purple Cow's if you're driving through the country and you're driving by lots of farms, you're going to see lots of cows. And you're not really going to notice any of the cows. They kind of all start looking the same, or they kind of do look the same to most people. But if there's a purple cow, you're like, oh, wait, a purple cow. So we're talking about marketing because everybody, the traditional marketing is trying to get whatever you have in front of everybody. But when you're in today's age of 2019 and everybody's seeing everything, how are you going to make sure what you're selling stands out? Yeah. So that's the way, right? Or that's a great example of getting attention and getting more traction on your listings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very I always think slow and steady wins the race. So even though I get a listing present, an assigned exclusive on Monday, that doesn't mean I'm shooting the listing on Tuesday.
Yes,
getting the listing ready, coming up with a marketing plan that works.
Slow and steady wins the race.
We're doing it people don't buy homes, and and there's always an exception to the rule, but I think proper launch is really important, and then making sure it looks
I think proper launch is key. Proper launch is a big part of my marketing and my listing, because if you don't launch it properly, it's kind of like the foundation of your marketing and where and the success of it in the long run ultimately.
And there's also, sometimes in New York, in the buildings, you get a lot of nosy neighbors. So I also like to do a little like first open house for the buildings, so that all the nosy neighbors can come and you get to meet the people on the board. It's all and good.
And just for them, so now they actually feel special as opposed to disregarded.
Mm-hmm. And then, I don't have to worry about one of the neighbors distracting me while there's real buyers in the apartment.
Interesting. And, I wonder too, so I find people, and I think that's changing and improving, and I think Compass and how we do business has a lot to do with it, but you hear about, statistics of real estate agents being kind of, in a lot of people's minds, on the same level of, say, a car salesman, or kind of just sleazy. Not that car salesmen are terrible, but kind of that same perception people have. And when I know sometimes like people are like, people talk about realtors and people are two different things. Or I've even been in occasions where someone doesn't know me yet, and I'm meeting them as the realtor, and they like talk to the other person but won't talk to me. So. And sometimes I'm like, I know I'm like the realtor, but I'm also a person. But I love that about what you, and it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes I kind of catch that. But back to you, it's like making sure, like doing these open houses where you invite the neighbors. Obviously, it's great lead generation, great relationship development, which you're so good at. And in that relationship development, it's reminding everybody that the listing agent that listed the property isn't just a listing agent. She's Shari Matluck. She's an awesome girl. She's a great person. And oh, by the way, let's use her when we sell our house or our condo or apartment, as you say in New York. So I love it. That's awesome. So you have any fun stories from that, or know what you say?
From those pre-built, well, there's, I guess, I do have one from that. There's this one building in Flatiron that's right by our HQ. It's literally around the corner from headquarters. And I have my third listing in that building right now in the past 2.5 years. So it's a small building, and it's a small self-managed building. So I know every single person on the board at this point.
Wow.
That when I sold my last sale in that building, it was the first time that a seller had met. I asked at the listing presentation, "Are you meeting with other agents?" She said yes. She wouldn't tell me who, but they were from Compass, so I didn't know who they were. And her apartment was a mess. I mean, it was 750 square feet, 3 huge dogs. She'd been there for 35 years.
Oh my gosh.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And and it was a lot. So anyway, she ended up hiring me. We partnered up on this. It was teamwork. She agreed to clean and paint and swap out the backsplash, which can make such a big difference. And I agreed to stage the property. So we launched it a couple weeks later, and I was, I did a proper launch. I took a picture of myself on this big ladder, and there was this huge, there were 13-foot ceilings in this apartment. And so my whole campaign there was like taking it to a whole new level, because it was in front of this bookcase.
Oh, it's so awesome. Yeah.
Cute. And it worked. And I did the launch, and then 2 other women from Compass that I really respect and I know well came up to me after and like congratulated me on the listing and explained that they didn't have the same vision when they were in their meeting with the seller. Like they're like, one of them said something to that extent, like, I don't know how you did that or how you got her to do it, but I didn't see what you saw. Because I ended up getting multiple offers on that. We sold it for the full asking price.
What a great story.
At that time, because I did the pre-launch open house within the building, that's when I really got to know all the other neighbors. And they made another seller that, my current listing, they made her list with me instead of the other person. It's
awesome.
But so it was great.
Yeah.
It's been
I love it. I love it. So I love how not only from your clients and the people you develop relationships, you kind of you even take your properties and really individualize them the same way you do your clients. Which talk about your competitive edge. I mean, there it is. And it's just digging deep into who you are and what your skill set is. So I've got like 5 more questions. 2 are kind of your experience and the lessons you've learned that I want to tap into. And then we're going to do our final 3. So on those 2 questions, number 1, what about your career are you most excited about and or most proud of?
Oh, that's a good one. What am I most excited about? I guess what I'm most excited about, especially right now, is that I recently partnered with another amazing agent at Compass. And so the 2 of us are in the process of rebranding and building a real wonderful team and getting some really great agents to join us. And I'm really excited about the opportunity that we have working together, because it is a really good balance. And it's somebody that I've really looked up to in my career as well.
That's awesome.
And what am I most proud of? Oh gosh. I mean, competitively, my mom and I are pretty competitive. And so it feels good when I outsell her in some ways, which
Love
I don't.
It. Yeah.
We're always like kind of neck and neck, but she's like my idol. So,
oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
So even this morning, she's like, I had a closing today. Where are you at now? And I'm like, oh wait, hold on, let me count. And she was like, never mind, and hung up on me. But
that's great.
And then, but yeah, I think, I've become that real estate expert in my network. So it feels really good when I get referrals from my previous clients when they come back to me, referrals just feel so good. I'm so proud of the business that I built from my
That's awesome.
client.
So now the tough question, but this is where, we all learn, like where we really grow is where problems look like problems. And when we find opportunities in problems, that's what we really grow out of. Do you have any examples of challenges in business or problems you've come across that because you saw it as an opportunity, it turned into one, and how that happened and how it turned into an opportunity? Or just your biggest lesson learned in the business might be an easier way to answer that.
Okay. So I think my biggest, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in this business is to not bite off more than you can chew, especially when you're already a little full.
Yeah.
So, because of the way that my business has been built through referrals, I find myself all over Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn, et cetera. But in some cases, and so we don't really do some people, now I understand a neighborhood expert, and I do have expertise in some neighborhoods, but I'm still able to go outside of those neighborhoods and feel confident that I'm adding value. But it's better to work with other agents. I've learned a lesson that it's better to work with other agents and partner up sooner.
Yeah.
Instead of, investing that time with the customer.
Amen to that. It's so true.
Spend so much time in, and then, that's
I know so many top agents too, like doing 150 plus million a year, young agents who built their business that way. They came in and they knew how to generate the lead and generate the business, but to ensure they not only won it, but learned to accelerate their learning in their career, partnering up with agents to do that. So that's a great example.
Yeah.
So our final 3. Number 1, everybody knows my favorite book, but I'm going to be disciplined for at least a few minutes and let you tell yours first. I love to use the opportunity. But what book would you most recommend? What book have you read that has most impacted your life and your business?
I think, it's a little untraditional, but 365 days of gratitude or thank you. Blanking on
That's awesome.
It's this great book about this man that was in a point, in a really low point, and he spent every day he wrote a thank you note to someone. And it's amazing how, it just kind of, and there's so many, we as real estate agents, we constantly have 365 balls up in the air. We're the center of people's largest decisions, and we're also the center of their, frustrations. We're there's so many things that go on. So this book really taught me to kind of look at conflict or frustrations or not, like obstacles as an opportunity to grow and be grateful for something else that can help you move forward.
And so, is it 365 days of gratitude or 365 days of thank yous?
I want to say it's gratitude.
And we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Got that, Isaac? Okay, so
it's one of the ones that they recommended in the Ninja Selling course.
Oh, ninja selling. We hear a lot about ninja selling. Okay, so next,
365 days of thank you.
365 days of thank yous. So next, is there a tool that you have found, whether it's a Compass tool or another tool or a CRM or any tool, and not your phone, that you have found most impactful in your business?
Yeah, the Compass app.
Which one? Just the app with collections on it? Yeah.
The app is amazing because but collections is
the Compass collections was kind of glitchy in Atlanta at first, so I just cut it out, and a few days ago I started using it again, and I'm like, oh my God, I love this. It's great.
But I mean, and I've spoken to a lot of agents that don't have their search connected to the app as well as we do.
Yeah.
And look, we're a tech firm as well, so there's always, we're constantly improving. There's always going to be a glitch. It's just a matter of our mindset as we take it on. Like if I'm in front of a customer,
everything improves so quickly and so fast. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but if it's a little buggy, then it's natural. We're always improving on it, and it's just going to happen. But
I love it. Yeah.
Have the search set up with it, but still using collections for that Pinterest element, like process elimination and visualizing listings, and it can be really helpful. Okay. I don't know what I would do without collections.
I'm starting to feel that way. And
I used to email links and Excel spreadsheets.
And then you can't track it, and Okay, last one. Okay. If there's one thing, if I'm going to forget, or everybody listening to this is going to forget everything but one thing in this interview, what would you hope that would be, that we would remember?
I think if you're not having fun, you're probably doing it wrong.
I like it.
When it comes to like buying,
and that's what gives you your ability to connect and market so well, by the way, I would say.
Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. I think like with my buyers, I mean, I'll ask those uncomfortable questions. I'll, ask the neighbors in the elevator what's up with how they like living in the building. I'll go outside the box for my buyers the same way that I will for my sellers, and I'll keep it fun. I'll keep it fresh. And at the end of the day, it's such a big decision. It's the biggest transaction that a buyer's making. It's the biggest asset that a seller's letting go of. Like, it should all feel good. And if it doesn't feel good, then it wasn't really meant to be.
Awesome.